Let's get hyped. Welcome into the Husker247 HypeCast. I'm Mike Schaefer, joined by Michael Bruns, joined by Brian Christopherson, and this week's special guest, 93.7 The Ticket, salesman, radio host, sort of utility player, does kind of everything needed. Jake Sorensen joining us here on the HypeCast. Jake, how are we doing today?
Doing well. Good to be back. Thanks for the invite again this year. I thought I might got kicked off last year, but glad to have the invite again. So thank you.
Did we not have you last year?
No, you did. You did. You did. I just didn't know if we were going to do it again. You never know if it's your last year doing it. If you get the invite back, so I'm honored to be back in your guys' graces here today this week.
Well, it's such an exclusive club to be a member of the HypeCast guest crew, and so we're appreciative of you donating your time here so we can talk a little Maryland football. Jake, I want to start with this before we dive into our normal questions. How much Maryland football have you watched so far this year? What do you know of the Terps?
I did watch them play against Wisconsin. I was just mostly stunned at how bad the Badgers were on both sides of the ball that day. I think at halftime it was like 20-3 or something like that on the road in Madison. And of course, you had booing from Wisconsin that game, and that just more. I watched that more in the line of being stunned at how bad the Badgers were. But Maryland, of course, that game. Washington, the quarterback, is solid, and receivers have got some skills. They have a lot of drop passes this year, which is very odd. But I would say beyond that game, not much. I didn't catch any of the game against Washington when they blew the big lead last week. But about one half of football of Maryland so far.
All right. Well, let's dive right into it. As always, we start on the offensive side of the ball, and we're going to start with Brian Christopherson. Brian, what do you think we're going to be talking more about after this game? Nebraska's ability to run the football, Nebraska's ability to keep Dylan Raiola upright.
I think the run game is going to take a step forward this week. You heard Dana Holgorsen actually say he's encouraged. He thinks it's tracking right. It was more so he thought they just sort of got behind the sticks with some of those sacks and the tackles for losses, and it made it tougher to run the ball, but he thinks they can do it. Matt Rule has pointed to Emmett Johnson's stats and how he's like 15th in the country, and so they're encouraged with what they can do, particularly with EJ. I just think this is a game where early on they're going to want to try to establish that, and I guess I'm actually more confident that they can do that than – it's not lack of confidence, but I'm curious still about the pass protection after giving up 12 sacks the last 2 weeks. So it's more about picking between two things I'm not real sure of, and I'll pick the running game as opposed to pass pro right now.
Brunts, I think BC's lack of confidence in the pass protection could be fair given what we know about what Maryland has done already this year. What can you tell us about Maryland's front and how they've gotten after quarterback so far?
I mean, they're young, but they're very athletic. And, what I've also seen of Maryland, largely Wisconsin, I went back and watched a little bit of the Washington game, but a group that has done it against good competition too. It's not like they padded their stats against Florida Atlantic. All apologies to Florida Atlantic, but they really are a disruptive front. And I mean, if you're Nebraska, you for 2 straight weeks have basically put on tape that you struggled to protect your quarterback. And I mean, Dana Holgorsen yesterday was like, yeah, we're going to get blitzed. Like, we're going to get a lot of pressure. And Nebraska's going to have to deal with that. So, Maryland's always kind of had guys like that. Like, they've always been a team that feels like they have athletes that can really run, and this group is no exception. So that's going to have to be something that Nebraska is going to deal with. I think you're probably going to have a little bit of help from Dana Holgorsen in the way he calls plays and what he decides to dial up. So can Nebraska maybe take advantage of some of that youth along the defensive front with some misdirection stuff? Maybe, but it's definitely a group that gets your attention when you're watching them on film.
Jake, let's dial in on sort of how things look when Dylan actually gets the ball out. What have you made of Nebraska's passing game, in particular the pass catchers so far through 5 games this season, and how does it maybe compare to what we saw a year ago?
I think it's comparable. I mean, I'm not sure Nebraska's way better or worse than last year. I mean, I think you see similar players. Isaiah Hunter obviously had the big play against, last week to put the game away against Michigan State. Dane Keyes had moments this year. Of course, the first game, big touchdown against Cincinnati. It's been good ever since. Nothing special, but has been good. And then you've seen Lindenmeyer's been good at tight end also for this unit. So I think that, like, when Dylan has time, like you mentioned, I go back to last game. The offense was sputtering in that third quarter into the win, and then 3rd and 10, he finds Barney because he buys some time. Great adjustment by Ja'Cory, great throw by Dylan, and you score a couple plays later and tie that game up. I mean, they have the talent to put up some big numbers. It's just like you guys said, is the offensive line going to provide time? Can they keep Maryland's defense in check and not let them get a bunch of sacks and just constantly throwing out the timing of everything? But that's on Dylan to step up in the pocket and find a way to scramble if he has to, also to get some more time. But when they're on schedule, if he has time, yeah, I've been impressed with them. Nothing I think top of the conference, but certainly a talented team that can put a bunch of points on the board if they are in the right.
So we'll stick with Jake here. How, if anything, do you think Nebraska can attack some of their red zone issues that they've had now that we've seen pop up? And nearly every game this season, they've had at least one drive and in opponent's territory on downs every game this season.
Well, I think they want to try to run the ball. And again, you don't have a Dante Dowdell this year. Dowdell had 12 touchdowns last year. That's the guy you're missing who, again, wasn't great outside the red zone last year. He was fine, but you don't have that hammer. You want Mekhi Nelson to be that guy. You want, see if Ives can be that, but they haven't trusted them. So you don't have a run game to rely on in those areas. But I look at, all the time, great teams in the NFL, great teams in college, oftentimes we'll try to find a tight end. And I'd love to get Luke Lindenmeyer more involved, or if it's Harburg or Carter Nelson in the red zone, because usually those guys have a size advantage on who's covering them or a speed advantage. And I would hope that Nebraska can somehow utilize that, like a lot of great offenses in the league have used. So I'm not saying that's the end all be all, but if Dane Key's not open, or if you can't get the run game established, or I'd say look to Lindenmeyer and see if tight end has any sort of advantage in the red zone, like so many great teams do in the NFL and in college football.
Brunch, you're kind of the offensive line guy today. What, besides just and it's hard to just sort of say, besides the fact they got sacked 5 times, what did you make of the look with Pritchett on the left, Gatula on the right? Do you think that Nebraska just sort of sticks with this as we move forward? And what do you make of the offensive line just as a whole, acknowledging that there's obvious issues with the pass protection?
Yeah, I mean, is it progress that the sacks that they gave up against Michigan State wasn't guys just running around the outside? Like,
I think it is, yes.
It feels like when you compare the Michigan game to the Michigan State game, it was like that first week, it's like, okay, this guy is just dipping and getting to the quarterback. There was less of that. And I mean, we had talked all offseason that, Matt Rule was willing to flip somebody to the right side. That was going to be your best 5, was some combination of Pritchett and Gatula. And I thought it looked fine. I mean, obviously, the whole unit needs to improve the pass protection piece of it. But I mean, I don't foresee that changing. I mean, I think that's their best 5, and that's who they're going to roll with, assuming that everybody stays healthy. So I think at least you have to give that group of 5 some time to gel, let them play through the mistakes a little bit. But I do think that's your group. I mean, I think that was the decision they needed to come to, and I'm kind of glad that they did during the bye week, because it needed to be made.
BT, you said something on Husker247 Daily on Tuesday when kind of talking about the offense. You mentioned how few plays Nebraska has sort of run a couple times this season. What does that kind of do in terms of limiting the different looks or the different personnel you can really get out there, because you are only running a handful of plays instead of getting up there in the 70s and 80s? Nebraska's kind of been hanging out in the 60s and 50s at times.
Yeah, it's a good question, Mike, because what's happened is dictated all these different storylines, which are fair, but also you do have to say, like, when you only snap it 52 times prior to the victory formation, like last game, you're just simply not going to see as much of Mosey or Makai Nelson, and Holgerson mentioned like he's got a specific 2-back set that when basically that's what they're going to go to when Emmett is tired. But when Emmett's ready to go, they're going to use him. So if you're only getting 50 snaps, Emmett's going to be like, oh, I'm good for like 40 plays, and you're just not going to see as much. And it was also, I think, a reason why, Dane Key didn't get a catch in that game. And so that becomes a talker like, oh, where's Dane Key and all this stuff. Well, if you pick up a block on one of them, he probably scores a touchdown in the first half and the narrative is completely flipped. So I think it would be huge for this team, obviously, not just a win, but to have one of those games where you do actually get like 75 plays where Mosey gets in there and gets like 8 touches. Maybe you get Key the ball once or twice early in the game to get that feel going again. But it's good to bring that up because that has played a part in some of the conversations we're having, sort of how these games have played out.
Let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball. We'll go right to Jake Sorensen, and we'll ask a very simple question. Who's Nebraska's defensive MVP so far through 5 games this season?
Well, got options there. I mean, I think you look at how impressive they've been against the pass. You think about a secondary guy. The last week you had Singleton had two interceptions. I'll probably go start with there. Deshaun Singleton has been great. McCullough has had his moments also. We had Javin Wright played well against Michigan State, but I would go right to Deshaun Singleton. I mean, when you have a top-ranked defense against the pass in the country, you got to give credit to those guys. And the defensive line is not done great against the run, neither has the linebackers. So when you have the secondary doing that great and Singleton with a couple picks, I think there's several guys you can go with, but I like what I've seen from him this year. And so I would say, again, not by a blowout, but he is, as of this point, my defensive MVP of the season.
BC Sorensen mentioned right there. We saw that he had a really strong game against Michigan State last Saturday, starting right away in the first quarter. This has been a guy that I know that you've been excited about, just his opportunity to be able to sort of maximize. He's someone that flashes. He's someone that, when healthy, can provide a big play or two for Nebraska. What could be next for Wright? Because he does look healthy, and he did look very good on Saturday.
Well, it's hard to ask a guy to just go repeat 3.5 TFLs like you did last week, but without maybe hitting that stat exactly, I think what can be next is just like a consistency sort of that, like that presence that he had in that game. And I felt like he set the tone, guys, from the start against Michigan State when he hurdled the guy and got in on the half sack right away. And I think Aiden Childs knew, like, right off that play, like, okay, this is going to be one of these games where they've got their ears pinned back. It's been brought up, and I've thought about it more. As much as we talk about he's a 7th-year guy and he's been around so long, has, like, house projects with Home Depot, I'm sure, that he's got planned and all that stuff. He hasn't actually played, like, consistently as much football as you would think he has. And so this is big that he's now got a little momentum. And for the first time in his career, maybe the second, if a couple years ago he had kind of had a season where he got going, he can really, I think, string things together and use momentum from one week to the next. So that's what you hope for. I think him and Shavers are starting to form a nice little linebacker combo. And I expect Dawson Merritt's, reps to climb too as we go on.
Brunts, Maryland is not a good football team when it comes to running the football. Certainly not in Big Ten play so far, where they have really struggled to move the pile, to move things with ball carriers. With what you saw from Nebraska's front and just overall from the defense against the run, and particularly against the run when it was the running backs, does it feel like an area where that Nebraska could potentially exploit and make a Maryland team that wants to already pass play into what the strength of Nebraska's defense has been so far this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think they can. And I thought the difference last week with Nebraska's, especially up front, was it just felt like they were more active. Like there were more guys around the ball. It wasn't just one guy having to make a tackle in space. So I thought they did a pretty good job of plugging things up for the most part. And I think Nebraska has the ability to do that against Maryland. I mean, I obviously Maryland wants to chuck the ball. They're going to chuck it. But if Nebraska can take away the threat of the run, and I don't know that their quarterback is really He's athletic, but I don't think he's a an athlete.
He's not
like
Aiden Childs.
No.
No.
It makes things considerably easier when you make a team one-dimensional like that. So I think that's going to be the plan, and then it's going to be on the secondary to kind of back up what their numbers are and the fact that they're one of the top pass defenses in the country. So I was encouraged by the front seven, though. I thought that was their best game of the year, and I think a lot of it was just really effort and we had talked about it last week. Like, you just got to get more guys to the ball, and I think they're doing a better job of that.
We'll stick with Bruns here. We asked him about the rush defense. Now we're going to go straight to the pass rush. Nebraska was able to get 4 sacks against Michigan State. Looked good getting after the quarterback there. Do you think this is something that they can pick up and take from Saturday afternoon and take it over to College Park, put it on the plane on Thursday, fly it out to Maryland, have it bond, the pass rush bonds, and then with the rest of the team on Friday, and then they play Saturday and they can still kind of pin their ears back when they need to?
Yeah, get some clam chowder while they're there too. The defense,
crab cakes.
Yeah, crab cakes. John Butler, he said you got to pack your defense when you go on the road. Put it in the carry-on. So
has that been previous coaches' problems? They haven't brought the defense when they went on the road.
They got it taken at TSA.
Like Demery Croft just went nuts. Mike Riley didn't. Bob Diaco forgot to bring the defense to Minneapolis in 2017.
I left it sitting on the table by the front door. No, they should have had more sacks last week. Like, they had free runs at Childs and just weren't able to get him to the ground. Deshaun McCullough has been really good the last couple of weeks in what he's been able to do from a disruption point of view. Cade Petchak, he was in there primarily in third down and in pass rush situations. He's a high motor guy. I mean, would I bet on it? Would I bet the mortgage on it? No, but I do think they're trending in the right direction. And you saw Elijah Judy get his first sack. Interesting Spider-Man celebration. Probably needs some work there, but it feels like you're starting to see guys flash a little bit more. Williams Nwaneri the same way, where he's a guy that you hoped would be a difference maker, and the last couple of games he's starting to play like that. So I think they can be disruptive enough. And I mean, you get Childs on the ground a couple more times last week, and I mean we're up here with the talk about the pass rush this week. So this is an opportunity to do it, because I think they're going to have to defend a lot of dropbacks.
BC, what worries you about Nebraska's defense playing Maryland on Saturday? When you kind of assess from a statistical standpoint what the Terps have done, I don't know how much you've watched them so far this year. What concerns do you have about Nebraska's defense in this game?
First off, I like the matchup for Nebraska's defense. So it's not one of those games where I'm just overly worried about this thing or that thing. I guess I'd go this way, and it's a different angle. Maryland does not have good running stats. In fact, let's look at it. They're 128th in the country, but I think that's the key, honestly, is to make sure that valve is shut off and not get too high on your horse. You had a good week with the run defense, keep it going. They have to stamp that out early and not make that a part of this game, because even though Maryland has struggled with it, I still think every team looks at Nebraska's defense and they're like, I want to test that out and see if we can't knock down that wall. And so that to me is still the thing. It's like, don't let the run game get going where Malik Washington as a young quarterback is comfortable down and distances all day. Make him and those receivers actually beat you on 3rd and 8. And I think Nebraska feels like they can't. And if they do, you tip your hat on strength. But so just don't let that running game get going, even though people will act like it's not a problem or it shouldn't be a storyline in this game. Nebraska's got to prove for another week that they can stop that.
We'll finish with this one here with Jake Sorensen. Jake, you famously have wanted to have several statues erected in Lincoln for various coaches, athletic department officials, whomever. When is work going to start on the Mike Eckler statue with what special teams has done so far this year?
It's in progress right now, Schaefer. We're in the early stages of getting that built. So they've started building that at this point. He's been awesome. Eckler's
Would it be
been
like
incredible.
an interactive thing where people can chest bump Mike Eckler? Like that's a statue?
Exactly how it's going to be done. Yeah, we want that's how Mike wanted it, so we're going to do it just like that.
I think the statue actually chest bumps you if it's
it moves. Yeah, it moves. It's a moving statue. It's incredible.
Is communist Russia?
It's going to be a first of its kind. It's going to be incredible, and it's going to be deserving because he has been awesome so far. I mean, that special teams unit has been night and day different. Every part. I mean, punt block. We're seeing punt returns for the first time since Pierce Snell, it feels like, in 2014. It's been fun to see actually, room to run and it being utilized and getting, 15, 20 yards. Like we should expect that instead of muffing punts, not returning punts like they had for years or going backwards. So what a novel concept it's been to see special teams that's been competent. Kicking game's been good. Archie was not great into the win last week, but in general, what a huge upgrade he's been in that role. And certainly Nebraska had to have that to get over some of these issues in close games. And of course, you lose one score game to Michigan, but we'll see as we get to October, later games in November, if that can become a strength of this team, not just for the first 6 games, but for the last 6 games as well.
All right, let's move into the prediction portion of this podcast. We'll start with our picks to click, and we're going to go right back to our special guest, Jake Sorensen, who is someone that is going to have a noteworthy game out there in college.
Well, I will give you, speaking of special teams, I think Ja'Cory Barney had a punt return call back last week. Ja'Cory Barney will have a punt return touchdown this week.
Is oddly specific.
No,
prediction.
This is not specific.
Wow.
This is just a prediction. He's going to have a punt return touchdown. He's going to have a good game. Receiving is going to have, probably an important carry as well. Let's go for a first down. This is not my specific stuff, but I think he's going to have a great game. Player of the game, Ja'Cory Barney with the punt return touchdown. That will be very impactful in the result here.
Well, Michael Bruntz, you have to follow that up. Tell us about who's going to have like 4 catches for 67 yards after Jake Sorensen just announced a punt return for a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm gonna go defense for my pick to click. I'm gonna go with Williams Nwaneri. He gets 2 more sacks. I think he's gonna get chances to get after it. He's confident. When he walked into the press conference room, somebody yesterday was like, "Man, that's he just looks different. Like he looks like a dude. And he's starting to play like a dude. And I think he's gonna get a pair of sacks against the Terps."
We're getting some predictions inside the pick. I like it. BC, keep the energy rolling here.
I'm going to say Elijah Pritchett because we never pick O-linemen, and I think I'm going to use him as an example. I think
is there potentially multiple reasons for that?
I just think I'm going to just use him as an example of meeting the moment, growing from his first start at Nebraska, and the O-line in general, I think, having a better week. And so I'm using him as sort of a representation of that. If you're into the PFF stuff, and I know plenty aren't, like Gatula and Pritchett actually graded the top 2 graders from the last game. Now Pritchett definitely had a missed assignment that cost him a touchdown. So that's the stuff you got to clean up, and let's avoid the false start penalty. So that's part of this. There's not going to be a flag on him this week.
It feels like a big field position game, and so my pick to click is actually going to be Archie Wilson. And, feeling bold like Jake Sorensen, like Michael Bruntz, I'm going to add some extra context to it. 3 punts inside the 10 on Saturday for Archie Wilson as they pin Maryland, and Nebraska just kind of sits on top of them for most of the game. All right, let's go to oddly specific predictions, which we're just now weaving into our picks to click. So I'm excited to see where this goes. We're going to go to BC.
Okay, this is based off the number 3. Dasan McCullough is going to have 3 sacks in this game. The old hat trick. Kyle Cunanan is going to have 3 field goals. And Dane Key I didn't really believe this, but I want it to be to line up, is going to have a 33-yard touchdown catch after some of the worries about him not getting on the stat sheet last week.
Bruntz?
Sticking on defense, I'm going to say that Javen Wright has another good game, and he's going to be asked to cover some tight ends. He's going to be asked to do some things in coverage, do a little bit of everything. He gets an interception, and it's going to be one of those where you're kind of drifting back. Quarterback thinks he's got a little window to drop it in, but no, Wright just keeps backpedaling, jumps up, snags it, going backwards, runs it back for about 6 yards, but it's a big game-changing play. He's also going to have 7 tackles in this game, so another big game from him, pick and 7 tackles.
I'll dive in here. Maryland is going to score on a 43-yard touchdown pass to open the game. And the Terps will go up 7-0 early. There will be panic on the message boards. There will be concern. There will be some excited fans that made it out for Maryland's behalf at the stadium. And then the Terps are not going to score in quarters 2 or 3 of this game. They will score on the first drive, but then will not score again until the fourth quarter. That is my oddly specific prediction for Saturday. Jake?
I have 2. BC mentioned Kyle Kanan. I was thinking with about 3:27 to go in the second quarter, he's going to make a 43-yard field goal off the right upright. He's going to hit the upright and go in. Very specific. And then also Heinrich Harburg will have a touchdown pass in this game. Trick play, going to pass to Dane Key for a touchdown. I don't know the length, but you're going to see a Heinrich Harburg trick play, touchdown pass to Dane Key in this ball.
Now, let's see if we can drill in. You don't know the exact distance of the throw.
I don't.
But can you tell us the type of throw? Will it be a trademark Heinrich Harburg howitzer, or is he going to put a little touch on this guy? Is he running to the left? Walk us through the setup.
He's running to the right. It's not going to be like it's going to be a middle. I'm going to say like 25-yard pass.
Okay. Does he take the snap directly? Is he going in motion?
He does not take the snap directly. It is a play that a reverse type play.
A little razzle dazzle.
Yeah, razzle dazzle. Just trust me. Harburg's gonna have a trick play pass touchdown to Dane Key.
Okay.
Outside the red zone though, so not a red zone touchdown.
Okay. So there's gonna be a little bit of link to that.
I didn't know if it was gonna be like a pitch around the goal line or something like that.
No, I'm not counting that.
Okay.
It's got some
little shovel pitch option with your tight end, something like that.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, that's not what I'm calling. That could happen, but I think Harburg will have a decent length pass.
Trying to change Jake's mind on his.
Yeah, you're playing tricks on me, man.
We're just trying to get to what it looks like.
I'm trying to give all these specific pickings getting picked on.
I wanted to know if he was throwing it left-handed, if it was going
right-handed pass. Right-handed pass, not between the legs. It's a smooth-looking operation. Holgerson does a fist bump on the sidelines or in the box.
See, that's
they're specific for it.
For as much specifics as we can. All right, let's make predictions here. Nebraska's 4-1. Maryland's 4-1. This game could go a lot of different directions. Michael Brunt says this game goes how?
27-20 Nebraska.
Ooh,
okay. All right. Jake Sorensen.
24-21 Nebraska. Uncomfortable game, but Nebraska comes out on top. Does not cover the spread, but does win the game.
BT.
I have 30-23 Nebraska. I think a little reverse of last week, though. The Huskers are up like 17, and it creeps a little closer, and they recover an onside kick, to finish it off.
I think this, for some reason, feels like it's going to be weirdly low scoring. Probably going to be wrong in that regard. I'm going 17-13 Nebraska in kind of an ugly game that feels very Big Ten-ish between two teams that never feel particularly Big Ten-ish. So 17-13 Nebraska. That's another sweep for us here. It's getting a little sweepy in the HypeCast predictions here. So we'll find out if we're correct. We certainly weren't against Michigan. Everything else has looked pretty good so far this year. Jake, where can people listen to your great work? What hours are you on? How can people find you?
If you are in the Lincoln area, we're on 93.7 FM. If you're not, we are on ticketfm.com. We are also on video on YouTube, Twitter, or I guess X, Facebook, anywhere you can find video. Allo 961 if you're in Nebraska statewide. I'm on from 6 to 9 a.m. with Steve Sipple and Bill Bush. Monday through Friday, we'll have a pregame show also this weekend starting at 11 a.m. for Nebraska, Maryland on all those same channels.
All right. That is us for the HypeCast today. For Jake Sorensen, as well as Michael Bruntz, Brian Christopherson, I'm Mike Shaver. We're Husker 24/7. We'll catch you next time.